Marketer of the Day, number 499. Goal setting, finances, budgeting, and growing with Ruby Tan. Hey everyone, we're talking right now with Ruby Tan, and her website is at celabookkeeping.com. That's C-E-L-A bookkeeping.com. And Ruby has a really interesting story with a lot of lessons built in, and I think that it'll help a lot of people. So we're going to find out what Ruby's all about. So how are things today, Ruby?
Very good. It's nice to be here, Robert. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Nice to be talking to you. So can you tell us what you do right now in the present day?
Yes. Right now I am doing bookkeeping, providing bookkeeping services to my clients. But on top of the bookkeeping services, I realized that a lot of businesses has run into problem with their finances because many of them are just surviving from check to check, and without the next check, there's no way for them to pay bills. So I have gotten involved with Profit First with Mike Michalowicz, and we start changing. Basically, the point is to eradicate entrepreneur poverty. So it has been going very great.
Well, great. Yeah, I saw a little bit about what you're doing there. Yeah, it looks like in addition to the bookkeeping, you found a niche so that way you can make the big bucks for your expertise. But I heard a little bit about your kind of origin story about how maybe things weren't so great at first and you went through some real struggles and had to come up with a plan and get yourself out of it. So can you tell us sort of where you started and what happened there?
Yes. Originally, I was born in Indonesia. Then I grew up in Malaysia. Um, then I came to US to further my study. I got married eventually, and I have children. In the middle of the process, my husband lost his job in early 2000, and I wasn't making much at that time, so we lost pretty much the breadwinner. Um, then we had mortgage, we had bills to pay. We did not have a lot of other credit card debt, things like that. But we still have debt in terms of mortgage. So what I did was, I went on to like the Crown Ministry website, and I love budgeting. I like to handle, work out, play around with monies, finances, things like that with numbers. So I got myself into the budget, and I believe within 5, 7 years, not only we got out of the situation, my husband got back to school and then came back out and got a different type of job, totally different from what he was doing. But on top of that, we were able to pay off our mortgage within that 7 years period, I would say. So ever since then, I got started and I got excited. I said, if we can do it, I'm sure I'm able to help other families to do it. Not knowing how I should do it. And when I found out about the Profit First, I really got interested. I was sold out immediately, and that's how I got involved with them. And now I'm helping small businesses to help them get onto budget for the business. Doing budget on paper is one thing, but practicing it is another, because that is human behavior. It's very hard to crack, to
Right.
break that habit.
Right. It's like it's one thing to make a budget, but sometimes your
Yes.
brain will make compromises or not follow it or follow
Mhm.
it for a little while, and that darn human nature, human stubbornness creeps back in. And so when you were in this situation where your husband lost his job, but there were still bills to pay, there were still mouths to feed, was that scary? Was it hard to rise above the fear, or were you just like, I've got the budget, that'll get me through it?
Um, Actually, combination of both a little bit. One thing I know, we have to switch gear. Now we are going into survival mode, not to enjoy stuff. So you have to recognize which one is necessity, which one is luxury. I have to have it, or I want to have it, or I need to have it. I know usually of course you think that you need everything, but in reality you do not need everything. So things that we don't need everything, we cut down, to the point that I have to say that the cell phone that we got at that time, We have a landline on top of that. Our cell phone, we use the pay as you go. It costs us $100 for 1 year. And still we could not finish because we only use cell phone on emergency. Other than that, we'll try to find a landline. So that help us. Another thing is that for birthdays, we will go out to eat. But other than that, we don't go out to eat. So we change our lifestyle in a way. We shop at different store, considering every single penny that goes out.
Wow. Yeah. So cutting as much as possible,
Hmm.
so that way you can make those ends meet. But then it sounds like you also left some room for the fun, right? You didn't totally cut out going out to eat, but if it was a birthday, if it was a nice thing to do, then you still
Hmm.
found room for those little things in your budget.
Yes, yeah. I mean, birthday is a special thing. Only once comes once a year, so yes, we have to do that.
Right. You have to have some enjoyment with life, right?
Yes. And also, I have to say also that because we did continue using credit card, we collect mileage, and within that 7 year period, we were able to go back to Malaysia. That's where my family is from, with free tickets. I have to say for 4 people.
So how did you discover those sorts of strategies? Was it just like being aware of the deals, or how did you know that, to do things like that?
One thing, we have been quite frugal in our spending, and my husband is kind of a deal seeker. We sign up with mileage and things like that. And once you sign up with them, whenever they have deals, we have like, oh, do this thing, then you get 5,000 miles. We get notice like that, so we take advantage of them. And yes, those are one of the things we will just search through and yeah, things like that. I think just look around and don't settle just when you find something. Don't just settle for the first one. Look for the third, maybe second, at least third and second. Yes, then shop around.
Well, great. Do that thorough research. And so
Exactly.
so those things were really bad, but then you figured out this plan. You had the budget. You were aware of these deals with the miles, with the points, so that way you could make that work. Was there any point where there were some just real struggles with that plan? Was there ever a point where maybe the plan fell apart and you had to adjust, or was it just a slow and steady sort of thing?
It was slow and steady. It wasn't a big thing. For one thing, we have been quite cautious with our spending. So yes, we had to change a little bit of our spending habit, but I don't think we had to change a lot, I would say. And then in the middle of it, one thing that my friend advised me was, whatever happened, be faithful in my tithing. And so even though our income has slashed over 70%, I would say, when I got back to work, and we were faithful in our tithing, and the blessing was tremendous. I would say it not just in terms of financially, but we had good health, and so I think that all comes down to what we believed in. Um, for example, I have to say my cherry tree produced so much. The year before that, it produced only 6 cherries, but the year when my husband got laid off, it produced 60 pound. And the following year, we got 80 pound. It got so much. We don't know what to do, so we just give them away.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So that whole concept of tithing, I have to admit, like I'm not very religious, but I think my understanding is that you allocate a certain percentage to your church. Is that right?
Yes, 10%.
Okay. So wow. So even though the money was really tight, you still found that in the budget to keep your faith going.
Yeah, that was part of the budget.
Well, cool. So that's really amazing that that like it sounds like the budget was like really was a useful tool, and without the budget you really would have been screwed.
Yes, yes. If I do not include that in the budget, then we'll never able to find the money for that. So that was included in the budget.
Well, great. So you got through those rough years, and you made the budget work and all the finances, even finding some room in it for the trip. And then your husband developed a new career. And then as you were kind of coming out of this, then what happened?
And then I finished my degree. I finished without any student loan because our house paid off, so I was able to go back to school. I finished my degree, and after I got my bachelor degree, I decided to um, doing my do my own bookkeeping services and something might be able to help other entrepreneurs. And I have been doing it since 2013 or so. My sons now, as I learn this budget thing, I teach them to my son. So I have a son who is now going to college, and God willing, he will graduate without any debt also. So something that I would like to pass to other people as well.
Yeah, I mean, you set a good example for yourself, and now you're helping others get these great results. And so, was the getting the house paid off and going back to school to get your degree and creating the bookkeeping business, was that all part of a master plan from the beginning, or did that happen later?
It it wasn't part of the master plan. It just one lead of the one lead to another thing. Now that I got my house paid off, so I think I can use the money for something else. So then I decided to go back to school because I don't have this monthly payment anymore. Um, yes, we have to pay taxes, but we just set that aside. And after that, we were homeschooling our boys at the beginning, but when they got to high school, we realized, since I graduated and my house had paid off, so we were able to send them to Christian school, and that helps them also to grow spiritually and then physically. That has done a lot of things. You cannot imagine the freedom once you get out of debt. It's just like nothing before.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and it's great to be able to focus your money on one thing at a time instead of having it
Mhm.
all spread out between, well, paying the mortgage, paying the minimum on this debt, I have to rack up new debt to go to school, rack up even more
Yes.
debt to send the kids to school. I mean, that doesn't sound like fun at all. And it sounds like what you've done is just by maybe attacking the smaller problems first, then
Yeah.
it just freed up all this extra money that otherwise would have gone to waste.
Yes. Otherwise, they have gone to interest expense.
So yeah, so when you're doing like this bookkeeping sort of stuff, I'm sure that you see people maybe who are like bad with money or make a lot of mistakes. Do you think that there's a number one mistake that gets made a lot compared to what you were doing correctly?
A lot of them is spending that they are not realizing what they're spending because they were deducted out of their checking account or credit card accounts. That's one of the problems. Another thing could be like buying too much of stuff that you don't necessarily need. So with profit first methodology, we work with clients and to see where they stand. We will divide all the expenses, taxes, anything if they have set aside, and then we will look at the percentage. There is a guideline percentage that Profit First would recommend. So with Profit First is that when you deposited, say for example, $10,000 worth of sales, you do not go and spend that $10,000 because you will move the 10,000 to different places. For example, like owner's pay, the profit account, taxes account, and operating account, things like that. So what you could spend out of that 10,000 actually is only 3,000 because you have other obligations. You have to pay your vendors, you have to pay taxes, you have to pay your employees, and then you have to make sure that you also get paid yourself too. So that's why I see the Profit First works really well for entrepreneurs, and many has jumped in and has successful stories.
Including you, right?
Yes.
And so how did that relationship happen? How did you go from get being the bookkeeper and getting your degree and things like that? How did you go from that to also providing these profit first services as well?
Before I joined the Profit First, I volunteer uh, from with the Crown Ministries. like money life coaching, coaching individuals, families who are struggling with debt on personal level. I have helped with with their personal expenses, how to slash, cut down expenses, things like that. So now that I'm doing on the business side is somewhat similar, maybe slightly different, but somewhat similar. A lot of the expenses that business owner may find it to be hard to accept that they feel they don't need it. The excuse is that it's tax deductible. That's when I get number one. True, it may be tax deductible as regular expenses, but whether or not it's necessary, that's another thing also. So I find a lot of similarity.
That's very interesting. Yeah, that people might be using it's tax deductible as an
Yes.
excuse to waste money.
Even vendors will tell you, dude, that it's tax deductible. Don't worry, it's tax deductible. Very sad.
It's like I would rather have the money to spend on something important than to deduct the taxes.
Yeah, I'd rather have the money in the bank so, keep the cash flow up.
Yeah. Well, great. So, do you think that with everything that's happened to you, from making ends meet to helping other people out, do you think that is there something about your outlook, your mindset, your way of thinking? Is there something that you have that others don't have?
Um, I I'm not quite sure. I'm not other people, so I can't really speak on their behalf. Um, I have no idea, but I think if it's you're desperate enough, you can have that too. You see, if you are tired of being broke month after month, week after week, I think you can have that personality as say, I'm tired of it, I have to change. So I guess it's something that you can learn. It's not just being born with that. You can learn if you're tired of it. If you're willing to learn, you can.
Great. And it sounds like, especially from your story, that sometimes when these disasters happen, they might be blessings in disguise, because
Yes.
if we things don't get really bad and we're not tested and we're not forced to cut back when it's necessary, then we
Mhm.
might miss out on something even better down the road.
Yes, that's correct. Even, I mean, like when we were not spending crazily when my husband has his job, we never thought of paying off our mortgage early until he lost his job. So, yes, I think sometimes we were forced into certain circumstances to help us make different decision. Um, Maybe down the road we'll make a wiser decision. So, yes, I think that is has a lot of impact when you hit the break or something like that.
Well, great. So, is there anything coming up in the future that you're looking forward to in your personal life or your business? Anything new and interesting and exciting coming up soon?
Um, right now, we're focusing on helping more individuals to reach their personal goal or their business goal. So it's mostly in terms of helping them to find their goal, what their goals are, and we are in a 2018 right now. So whatever happened in the past, something you cannot change, but coming up, you will be able to change that. So that's something is my focus for 2018.
Well, great. Yeah, those past mistakes and actions don't necessarily dictate the future. That's
That's
a
true.
great way of thinking. So I want to make sure that everyone knows all about you and your websites and what kinds of things you provide. So can you tell us about some of those things?
Uh, I provide the bookkeeping services. I do not provide tax um, filing taxes. I don't let the expert handle that. I do provide profit first consultations, coaching, things like that, mostly with the finances. Um, that will be in the services, my niche.
Great. And how do we find out about both of those different services?
You can visit my website at silabookkeeping.com, or it would have my phone number, but I'll be more than happy to provide my phone number.
Sure.
It will be 630-768-2558.
Super cool. And so do you provide those bookkeeping services to like anyone in the US or anyone in the world, or is it just in Illinois, or who do you provide these services to?
For right now, we'll be just in the US.
Okay, great. So thanks for making that distinction. So if you're in the US and you're looking for a bookkeeper, then give Ruby a call at 630-768-2558, and also check out her website Cela Bookkeeping, that's CELA bookkeeping.com, and find out about her profit first coaching and those types of services, and we'll see you there. Anything sort of to say here, Ruby, to wrap up, or any kind of like lesson that you want to give to our listeners today?
Yes, one thing is that we have to set aside the money that something is more like prepare the umbrella before it rains.
I love it, because you never know what sort of disaster will happen. So there we go. Prepare the umbrella before it rains. And we'll see everyone over at celabookkeeping.com. And thanks, Ruby, for stopping by and sharing your story and some of this great advice. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you, too.
Thank you, Robert. Nice to meet you.
Today's episode is sponsored by doneforyoupodcasting.com. Is your podcast not what it should be? What if you could simply show up and have a team deal with content, outreach for guests, editing, production, social media traffic, and more? Check out doneforyoupodcasting.com.